Couch Cage Side with your host, Kyle Delaney for CouchFire.co. In this installment, I would like to break down and predict the upcoming heavyweight matchup in Strikeforce of the Strikeforce Grand Prix final between Daniel Cormier and Josh Barnett. Now, in this fight that will deliver, there's going to be fireworks in this fight for the final to decide the Strikeforce Grand Prix that's taken forever to get here. But in this fight, you have experienced veteran, grappler of the sport, heavy favorite coming in the tournament, Josh Barnett, versus newcomer entering in for Alistair Overeem, trying to complete the Cinderella story in Daniel Cormier. So what I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to break down both fighters, then I'm going to do my prediction. I'm going to start with Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier, for a guy who's come from a background in wrestling, he continues to improve and evolve as a mixed martial artist. He has embraced his stand-up tenfold. The guy trains at AKA, and for most wrestlers, some wrestlers get the game of striking, some guys don't. Daniel Cormier is one of those exceptions for wrestlers that really can grasp the game of striking and implement it very well in mixed martial arts. And training at AKA has done wonders for his stand-up. Daniel Cormier is an undersized heavyweight. He has a 71-inch reach, and it's a big disadvantage for not having a big reach in the heavyweight division, but he makes up for it being undersized, having a lot of speed and athleticism. Daniel Cormier has very good footwork. He pops in and out of the pocket. And the thing about it is he pops forward, he throws combination of punches, a flurry of punches, he confuses his opponents, and he's an accurate striker. He always connects with something. Daniel Cormier does not miss much on his strikes when he commits forward, and like I said, flurry of punches. And the thing about Daniel Cormier also is that he has very deceiving knockout power. Daniel Cormier has 4 knockouts on his resume, and he has finished 6 fights in the first round. The guy does make quick work of his opponents. He likes to finish fights in the first round. You can tell by his stats. He makes quick work. He goes out there for the kill. So it's very impressive, Daniel Cormier, how far along his striking has come. Like I said, accurate striker, combinations, and his footwork and his speed, deceiving power, you name it. But the best part of Daniel Cormier's game is definitely his wrestling. We're talking about a guy who was a 2-time junior college national champion, trained at Oklahoma State, went to Oklahoma State, was a runner-up in the national title, then competed in the Olympics for freestyle wrestling. He, in 2004, got a medal. In 2008, was named the captain of the team. And he's really, there's wrestlers that can, his wrestling translates very well in the octagon. Daniel Cormier is a very patient wrestler. And like I said, for a guy who's really been working his stand-up a lot lately, Daniel Cormier does implement his wrestling well. He is very patient in the clinch. He does land knees. The guy can dirty box. And he does implement takedowns very well. He sweeps legs, he can do a double, single leg, and when he gets to the ground, he implements his ground control very well. He's a very patient fighter on the ground, but if you give him an opening, he will be aggressive, and he will implement his ground and pound. He can posture up, and he can land down his deceiving power on the mat. And the thing about Daniel Cormier, too, is that he's not a submission expert. Wrestlers can work in their submissions and what they learn. He does have 3 submissions on his resume, but I do not see him submitting Josh Barnett in this fight. There's no way. Josh Barnett is far too skilled of a submission expert. And really what we're going to see here is, can Daniel Cormier's Olympic wrestling match a skilled wrestler and grappler like Josh Barnett? That's going to be the biggest question here. But Daniel Cormier is definitely one of the most capable guys that can at least try and keep up with Josh Barnett. Like I said, good ground control, good ground and pound. You can submit fighters, just not Josh Barnett. So pros and cons for Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier is the faster fighter for pros. He's the faster fighter. He has better footwork. He's the more athletic fighter. He is undersized, but like I said, that adds to his speed. And I also think that Daniel Cormier is he's the more dynamic stand-up striker. And also, I want to say that this whole Cinderella story thing, being the new guy in the tournament, getting to the finals, he's riding a lot of momentum going in this fight. The cons for Daniel Cormier: he's undersized. He has a 71-inch reach to Barnett's 78. He's undersized as well. He fights at 240. Barnett will be much heavier come fight time. And also in regards to he's inexperienced. He does not have the experience that Josh Barnett has. So that's what I have for Daniel Cormier. Josh Barnett. Josh Barnett, for a guy who is such a skilled grappler, such an experienced wrestler, and fought in multiple promotions, Josh Barnett is actually a very serviceable stand-up fighter. He is able to mix up combinations. Not really the combination striker that Daniel Cormier is, but the guy packs a lot of power behind his punch. He has a very good stiff jab, throws a good 1-2. He's going to use his range very effectively in this fight, if he can use this range very effectively in his fight. But he can keep his distance. He throws very powerful leg kicks. And like I said, the guy is a big heavyweight. If he connects with you, you are going to go to sleep. Will he test Daniel Cormier's chin? That's a big question. But the bread and butter of Josh Barnett's game is most definitely his wrestling. We're talking about a guy who did professional wrestling in Japan, a guy who teaches catch wrestling, and we're talking about a guy also is that he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, yet the guy has never trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in his life. So that's even more impressive than anything. The guy's wrestling and grappling is so advanced and so far ahead that he was awarded a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for his accomplishments. So that's impressive. And also, regardless of Josh Barnett's submission game, is that once he gets you to the ground, the guy, he can double, he can single. I mean, look at the Karatanov fight. We got Karatanov in the clinch. He tossed Karatanov down the mat. It was immediately in full mount. It was impressive. And then he was implemented the ground and pound. Barnett does have good ground and pound. He doesn't unload on you. He looks for his spots. And it's the same thing with his submission game. If you give him an opening, he will be tenacious and aggressive with it. Josh Barnett has 19 submissions on his resume. That is beyond impressive. A lot of skilled grapplers cannot even accomplish that in the game of mixed martial arts. So in regards to that, in regards to the pros and cons for Josh Barnett, the pros for Josh Barnett are definitely he's the better submission fighter in this fight. He's the bigger fighter in this fight. He's a huge reach disadvantage advantage in this fight. He has far more experience than Daniel Cormier, and not to mention Josh Barnett has a very good chin. He's hardly been knocked out at all. Guy, I mean, you could count on one hand how many times Josh Barnett's been knocked. He's a very tough guy. The cons for Josh Barnett is simply that he is not the athletic. He's not as athletic as Daniel Cormier. He's not as fast as Daniel Cormier. Not to mention cardio has been a question in the past, and not to mention also you don't know what to expect. What Josh Barnett will show up for these finals. Now, I'm not saying he won't, but you know he's showed up. He's been an erratic fighter sometimes. So we'll see which Josh Barnett shows up. So I have 4 categories. I have striking, I have grappling, I have experience, I have toughness. I'm going to give the slight edge in striking to Daniel Cormier simply just because of his deceiving power, his quickness, his athleticism, his ability to be accurate and throw his combinations. I'm going to give the grappling to Josh Barnett. These two may be great wrestlers, but you got to give it to Josh Barnett. The guy adds submission game on top of his already incredible catch wrestling, his wrestling ability. Experience is going to go to Josh Barnett as well. He's fought in multiple promotions. He's fought in countless fights and a lot of battles. He's won a lot of big fights. And toughness is going to be a wash. Daniel Cormier has never been finished before. His chin hasn't truly been tested, but the guy has not been finished. It says a lot. And Josh Barnett's a tough guy. He's been in a lot of fights, like I said, and very few fighters have been able to finish Josh Barnett. So, that's what I have for both fighters. Where I see each fighter being successful, I see Josh Barnett being successful. You know, he can keep this one standing, but why do so when you could get the fight to the ground? That is where you're most experienced. That's where you're so tough. Try and lock in the submission and test Daniel Cormier's wrestling. And where I see Daniel Cormier being successful is keeping the fight standing. You do not want to let Josh Barnett get down to where he's comfortable and let him allow this fight to go down the mat. Keep the fight standing. Try and use your deceiving power and turn this into a technical striking match and try and strike Josh Barnett. Where my prediction lies in this fight, and this is a tough one. You know, I'd say Josh Barnett's definitely the favorite going into this. But in the beginning, when Daniel Cormier was named as the fill-in for Alistair Overeem, I said that Daniel Cormier would win the Strikeforce Grand Prix. I thought it would just shake up everything. Lo and behold, he defeats Bigfoot Silva, and I think he's going to do the same against Josh Barnett. And this is a very tall task. You know, any day I'd take Josh Barnett by a submission, but Daniel Cormier has an incredible takedown defense, and how I see this fight panning out, I see these two coming out, I see them testing each other's range. I see it being kind of like Josh Barnett's fight with Karatanov. Coming out, he gets a few strikes, Karatanov landed a few strikes on him. I see Daniel Cormier landing a few strikes on Barnett. I see Barnett trying to get this one in the clinch and trying to get Cormier down to the ground. But I see Cormier, his low center of gravity, being a big advantage for him. I see him being able to withstand a couple of the takedown attempts, keep this stand, turning in a technical striking match, and getting inside of Josh Barnett's reach. I see his footwork being an advantage in this fight, and I see him pressing forward, getting inside the reach, landing that huge strike, and sending Barnett down on the mat and finishing this fight via TKO. So I'm going to take the underdog in this fight. I'm going to take Daniel Cormier. I'm going to take him completing the Cinderella story, defeating the heavy favorite and one of the favorites coming in the Strikeforce Grand Prix and Josh Barnett, and winning this fight via TKO. So I'll take Daniel Cormier via TKO. And that's what I have for this edition of the Cage Side Couch. It's Kyle Delaney, signing off.